Hello, I'm Alex Silverman. I'm a professor in the MA TESOL program here at the S.I.T. Graduate Institute. And I'm very happy to be doing this interview with HAFSA today. And HAFSA, could you start by introducing yourself, telling us where you come from, a little bit about your family, your schooling, and your work to this point?
Okay, my name is HAFSA and I'm from Morocco. I was born in Casablanca and raised in Casablanca. I belong to a very big family. My dad is from El Jadida, which is a very conservative small town in Morocco, and my mom is Berber. She's not Arab. And yeah.
So could you tell people a little bit about the Berbers, because many Americans are not familiar with that group?
Okay, they're not Arab, and they first came to Morocco. They claim that they're the first or the native Moroccans, and they speak their own language.
Okay, so speaking of language, could you tell us about the different languages you speak and how you learn them and how you identify with each one? In what ways you identify with each?
I speak Moroccan Arabic because I'm Moroccan, so it's my identity as a Moroccan person. Mm-hmm. I speak Berber a little bit because my mom is Berber, so I feel like I inherited this from my mother's side.
And you learn that through her interactions with you as a child?
Yes.
Not in school?
No, we don't. No, not at school. Even Moroccan Arabic, it's just like interaction with people in the family. Mm-hmm. And I learned Standard Arabic at school as a formal language because, for me, as a Muslim, it's the language of the Quran. And also, like, as an Arab person, I connect myself to the whole Arab world by speaking the Standard Arabic, and I can communicate with anyone coming from any Arab countries. I speak French, which is the language of power in Morocco, and my identity as a French speaker, I'm smart educated, because if I speak French fluently, that means I'm a really educated person.
Okay, so in the eyes of other Moroccans, French is a cue, like a signal that you belong to a certain social class, you've achieved a certain level of education?
Yes, it's like education.
It establishes you in the hierarchy?
Yeah, so if you speak French, you're a really educated person.
Okay. I remember you once telling a story about if you're on a train, for example, and people are reading newspapers. Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I remember that. Well, it's different. It's a different opinion. Like I read the newspaper in Arabic, and my sister, my younger sister, was like, "Why do you read newspaper in Arabic? Because if you read it in French, people will see you as a really educated person, while Arabic is not." But I was like, "Why?" So it's.
What's interesting in that for me as a sociolinguist is that your sister was focusing on what other people's opinion was, that it would be influenced by what you're reading, rather than you choosing to read whatever language you prefer or are more comfortable in, or?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your identification or lack thereof regarding French.
I actually gave a presentation last time about language ownership, and I talk about how when you tell me do you own Arabic, I say yes. If you own Moroccan, yes. If you own Berber, yes. But when you tell me if you own French, I need to think a little bit because it's not my language, and I feel like it's an imposed language on me, and I don't see myself in it, but at the same time I speak it fluently, as fluent as Arabic, and I just see myself, or people see me smart speaking French. So,
right. Do you feel for yourself that French gives you any advantages?
Yeah, definitely.
In your life?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I can get any job in Morocco just by speaking French fluently. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the one language you haven't mentioned is the language we're speaking right now.
Yeah, English.
So tell us about how you learned English. And now you've lived for quite a while in the United States in different places. How your identity is, has it been fluid? Do you have a feeling of ownership and identity as an English speaker? But first tell us, my questions are getting too long, so
it's okay.
Can you just tell us where and how you learned English?
Well, I learned English in high school, and it was a lot, like, I didn't choose it. I just...
It was obligatory as
yeah. So my English, high school English teacher was really a good teacher and inspiring one, so I just love the language and I'll learn it.
And was that teacher Moroccan?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never taught by any American or
Mhm.
British teacher in Morocco. It's
Yeah.
all Moroccan teachers. And then I came to United States in 2007, and then is where I started brushing up on my English. And when I came here, English started to be my personal language also. Like I kind of like feel myself in English more. Maybe because I already mentioned that in my ICLT class, that it made me think about certain things.
Uh-huh. Could you tell us or give us some examples of how it made you think about certain things?
Well, we did here a lot of activities like the identity sphere and like the floor plan. And at that moment when I was drawing my house, I didn't have any place that I regard as private. So then I realized there is no word, like there is no privacy. Like I don't have a word called privacy in my culture, and I started to think about it, and I value my culture. It doesn't mean like I disagree with it now. I still value the sense of discovering this in another language made me think a lot. So I kind of like built another personal relationship with English.
Okay, so that's a very interesting observation because it means that you added on both a word in another language and a concept
And
that
awareness.
relates to the word,
Yeah.
right? And that concept is now part of you because you've experienced American privacy notions?
Yeah,
Is that-
we do have privacy, but in
Yeah,
a different
in a different sense?
Yeah, we have privacy. Like I don't claim privacy within my family members. Privacy maybe to somebody who doesn't belong to my family, but to see privacy in my own house, I don't see it. And it's so interesting because I start talking to my friends and I told them about I never refer to my parents' house as their house. I always say I'm gonna go back to my house.
Right, your own house.
Yeah, so it's like this sense of privacy and the relationship between you and your family and how you see things in a different way. And yeah, it's a different concept added to me through English and made me understand more the English language.
Right. But you had already spoken French fluently before you really became a fluent English speaker. And of course in France there is the concept of intimité, vie privée.
Yeah.
So had that struck you through French before or
No.
It
Because
hadn't?
I never
Because you didn't live there.
Yeah,
Live there.
yeah, I learned
Right.
French in
Right.
a Moroccan community, so it's
Okay. So, what are the places you've lived in the U.S.?
Kentucky,
Uh-huh.
Louisville, and here.
Okay. And why did you originally want to come to the U.S.?
Because it's an English-speaking country and I'm an English teacher, so.
Okay, that makes sense. So we'll go even further back, and I'll ask you, what led you to want to become an English teacher?
As I told you, I was really inspired by my advanced.
Your own teacher.
Yeah, my high school teacher. She was so great, and I was good at English in high school, and I want to become a teacher, so I just chose to teach English.
Right. And did you think about becoming an Arabic teacher or a French teacher before that?
No. Well, I taught Arabic in the States.
In the States?
Yeah,
right.
Because I'm regarded as a native speaker.
Right.
Yeah, but not in my country because everyone speaks Arabic.
Yeah. Okay. Although I assume there might be some
Yeah.
foreigners. There are a lot of Americans now going on study abroad programs
I
in
can teach
Rabat.
them without having
Yeah.
a PhD or
Right.
just by being a native
the-
speaker.
yeah.
So, and maybe by learning English, it will allow me to teach them Arabic because they need someone to communicate with.
Right. Okay. So, by living in Kentucky and now here in Vermont, you've solidified an identity as an English speaker. So do you feel that sense of ownership that you talked about a moment ago with regard to American English?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Yeah, I'm
But
working
do
on
you
it.
sometimes feel like, I really understand that expression, or I really understand that word, whether it's privacy or whatever?
Yes, I do.
Even though we don't have that expression or we don't have that word, because I've lived the concept or the word.
Yeah.
I've experienced it.
Yeah, I do.
And you did an internship this past winter in Somerville, Mass, and you had immigrant adults as your students. And of course, I worked with you there. So how did you think of yourself as a teacher of English for immigrants when you yourself are not from the country? Did you have contradictory feelings about that?
Well, it was very hard for me. Like, as I said in my presentation, it's coming to English ownership. It's very hard for somebody who's regarded non-native English speaker to teach someone who is a non-native speaker. So they always don't believe you, or to just see you as not as competent as a native speaker. So I was trying to sell myself first. Like, for you as an American, you don't have to sell yourself to your students. They believe you once you step into the classroom by being American. But I do have to build this trust first, so that to make them believe me and believe and trust me. So it was a little bit hard, and yeah.
And so what happened? Do you feel that you achieved that credibility in the eyes of your students?
Yes, but it took time.
It took some time.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
Yeah. And did you feel that you had some advantages by being from another country and working
With Americans,
with them?
yes. But with my students, no. With Americans, I always feel advantage. But with them, I always feel like I need to really sell myself to them, and I really need to build the trust. So.
Okay. So HAFSA, just before the interview, I asked you to draw circles representing the spheres of influence that have helped shape your own moral sense. And maybe you could share that by showing it to the camera and talking about it.
Well, as you said, as you see, religion represents the higher and the bigger percentage, and family and education are intertwined and interconnected and related to the religion.
Okay, so could you expand on that? So one thing that struck me when you did this in class, and again today, is how central and how significant the religious sphere has been for you. And I'm sure that's not unusual where you come from, but I would say for the majority of my friends and family, they would have a circle in the center which would be me, what I think, what I have figured out about life and morality on my own. And maybe there are influences from religion, from family, from reading, from school, but essentially people feel pride in saying, I have a moral code that I live by, that I have figured out, I have determined. That's not to say that at all, that all Americans are like that, but there's a significant percentage, especially in academic circles such as S.I.T, where people would have that. So tell us about in what ways that religious influence has been central to your moral development.
Well, to answer, like to comment a little bit on what you said and to go further, because I don't see myself. I develop my own self because I believe in religion, and I believe that all the morals come from the religion, and we don't question religion, and I don't question it. And if we question it, we just question it to know why,
to know more,
but not to disagree.
Right, not to doubt it.
No, like if I don't understand something, it doesn't mean like I don't agree with it, but I want to know more so that if I know the reason, I can defend it, and it makes sense to other people when I tell them about it, that I don't disagree with it. So that's why do I have to create my own moral, which goes, of course, if I create my own, it has to be different from religion.
Right.
But yeah.
So you don't set yourself apart from it, and you don't step back and question it, analyze it, doubt it, assess it, judge it.
I don't judge. I question. I question so many things in my religion just to understand, but I know it's right. I just want to know why it's right, because it doesn't make sense to me right now, but I want to make. I want it to.
So you start with the presumption that it's right. I might not quite understand it now, but if I explore it further, I'll see the wisdom within it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how I see things.
So do you ever encounter anything that an imam might say or do, or some interpretation, or even the passage in the Quran itself that you wonder, how could that be right?
I wonder how I didn't understand it, and I
Okay.
wonder the imam if his interpretation is right or wrong. But I don't question.
Right.
I just question myself if I really understand the code very well, or there is an interpretation that's right, but I don't understand it. But I cannot step and see that I don't agree with it. I just want to understand if I read it well and interpret it well.
Mhm. So, do you read the Quran as part of your religious practice?
Sometimes, yeah. I do.
Yes. And do you then take it as the word of God through the Prophet?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you a different kind of question. So you've lived in the United States for considerable periods of time, and this community at S.I.T, of course, is a very progressive community.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people who, like me, determine their own moral codes without regard to what others think or without regard to their religion. So have you experienced moments, incidents, events where you felt uncomfortable with what people were doing? Not that you objected or
Mhm.
told them that, but where inside yourself you felt that isn't the right thing to do.
I used to do that.
You used to feel that,
I
you
used-
mean in Kentucky before?
In
or-
Kentucky and in Morocco, because I have a lot of American and French
I see.
friends. I used to judge a lot. I used to think that this is right and this is wrong.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing something that I believe is right, so you're wrong. So, but being here and living for a long time and learning a lot, I just realized that we're just different. And
Mhm.
I am different, but I'm not indifferent. I respect the way you believe, and I believe in what I believe in. So I am right, but maybe you're not wrong. So
Okay.
I don't like.
I
judge
see
you
that
in-
distinction.
Yeah.
I understand that distinction. Can you give an example, however, of something that just made you uncomfortable in Americans, either in Morocco or here, that we've done?
Moral, like about.
Yeah.
Okay, I hate profanity and swearing.
Profanity.
Yeah, I just like don't like it. I don't feel comfortable being with people who do that. But like because all my friends here say it, I won't say I'm 100% comfortable, but I'm okay with it. Like because they're my friend and I respect them. But when it happens in the classroom, it just doesn't make sense to me because in front of the teachers, I still don't see
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it's really like it's one of the biggest issue in my country that you have to be respectful.
How about things like drinking, which are also customs that are very common in the West, but not in Muslim countries?
Yes.
Alcohol, of course.
I also used to be uncomfortable with people who drink, but now I'm kind of like,
This is what they do. I don't do it, but
yeah, I don't do it. I don't want to say they're wrong. I am right, but I have no right to judge because I was born free. And I had the choice to believe in what I believe in. Even God didn't oblige me to be who I am right now. So I don't have no right to judge other person. So I just respect them. And
Okay. Have you ever felt pressure from Americans or other Westerners to alter the way you behave or what you believe in? You haven't felt that?
no.
Okay. Let me ask you another question about the intersection of two cultures. So we've been talking about your life here in the States and how that has felt for you. What about when you return to Morocco and the customs, what people wear, what they eat, what they think? It's all very different from here, right? You're comfortable here now. You've been here for almost a year, I think, without returning.
Almost a year.
Yeah. So, what do you think it's going? Do you think you're going to have feelings, even if they're temporary, of disconnect or of discomfort because you've become so attuned to an American way of life?
Talking about dressing up, to tell you the truth, it's the same like here. I live in Casablanca and it's very, very modern, like city, so I don't see the difference between. And I dress up here the same way I dress up in Morocco. Like I didn't change at all. So when I come back home, and also like the area where I live is the same like here. So,
How about deeper things like the privacy concept? So here, of course, people, it's very important to
to have
determine,
space.
to give people what we call your personal space,
Mhm.
right? That's very important, even if you're not intimately connected with the person, especially if you are.
Mhm.
So you're going to go back home with a different idea about that. So is that something where you might feel, oh, I got used to the American way about that? Or do you think you just go into your Moroccan self?
I'll come back to my Moroccan self because I just understand it more.
Mhm.
And within my family, I used to see things in a different way. My little sister actually, she likes privacy.
She likes privacy?
Yes, and I never understand. None of us understand that she claims the rights of privacy, so we always think that she's selfish.
Mhm.
And I used to have a lot of conflicts with her. Now coming back home, I understand more
Mhm.
what she, like she's not selfish, but she just wants her own
Right.
space. It used to make me sad when I just stepped in her bedroom and she told me like, don't touch anything. It's my own space. I was like, you're so selfish. This is not in my culture.
Mhm.
But now I understand that there is a sense, that there's something called privacy. So
Right.
I think it's understanding and being aware of that word doesn't change me, but it changed my attitudes toward how
Mhm.
people behave and
Right.
make me understand
Right.
more.
Do you have any idea where she picked up this idea of privacy?
It's a personality.
It's just a personality
Yeah,
thing.
she likes her.
Mhm. Right. Another topic that I wanted to explore with you a little bit, HAFSA, was the idea of groups, group behavior, and individualism. And I know there are some cultural contrasts there. And the other day, you were talking about how when you get into a group, like where there's a group task in a class, one of the first things Americans often do when they get into the group is people step forward and say, I would like to do this role. And then the next person says, I would like to do that role. And it seems a positive thing if you assert yourself,
Mhm.
right? So you remember that conversation
Yeah.
we had. Tell us about that.
Like the sense of being selfish. Like
Mhm.
in my culture is, if you are in a group, you're not supposed to say, I want this first. You need to wait for the whole group to choose, and then you should be the last one to choose. And in this way, you're not selfish, and you're allowing the group to choose first and to choose what they want. And as I told you in the classroom, I used to be regarded as somebody who is careless or was not interested in the work.
Yeah,
and my
that you're
friends used to
indifferent.
accuse me,
Yeah.
like, why are you not motivated? Why
Yeah.
you don't want to work with us? I was like,
Mhm.
it has nothing to do with working with you.
Mhm.
It's just like I can't, because if I choose first or I pick something that I like, I'm being here selfish and I'm taking something you may like and I'm taking your
Right.
spot.
Right. And have you found, I think it's great that you explain that to Americans when it comes up, but do they get it?
No,
They don't.
no.
They still think you should step forward and,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They want you to be more like them in that.
Actually, I just
regard.
had a conversation with Christy last time about, because I've never went to the writing lab before. And she worked there and she was like, why you didn't come? And I said, well, I don't come because I feel like it's only pass and fail in this program.
Mhm.
And I do my best and I send my paper, but at the same time I'm thinking about international students who have to pass. So I don't want to, who have grades. So if I go to the writing lab and I'm taking there, and she was
There,
like,
you're
this
taking
is so
their
much,
time.
like you
Yeah.
have to think about yourself and put yourself
Yeah.
first.
Right.
I don't know.
Mhm.
So,
Right. That's a really interesting example because there, your explanation that you were thinking about students from a whole other program and what their needs are seems really generous to me, but at the same time,
it's,
it would never occur to me
Well-
to do that.
okay, well maybe because I was brought up this way. My
Yeah.
family teach me this way. Like even in the table when we're eating, I will see my mom waiting for us to eat. Then she will eat at the end to make sure that the food is enough for everyone.
Mhm.
So you learn this from your family.
Right.
So you take them as a model. My mom and my dad are the model for me. Look at what they're doing. So I learn from them. And by doing the same here, it's just by saying who I am as a person.
Mhm.
And I just, yeah.
I think there was another interesting example we spoke about also, which was that when we began the program during orientation, I asked, I appealed to the American students and Canadian, the native speakers in the group, to make sure that, especially in the first few weeks, that they did not speak too fast, if they used an idiomatic expression to explain it, or if they used a cultural reference to make sure they slowed down and made sure people understood that. And that was a way of including people in the larger group.
Mm-hmm.
But if I recall correctly, you said you had some feelings about that idea, that the Americans should be very conscious of their language.
Yeah, but it's hard for them to be aware of this because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's so hard. And also, like, if I recall very well, I was talking about how it was hard for me to work with people and ask questions because I don't want to impose myself on them, and I don't want to be a burden on them and to make them lag behind just because I don't understand.
Right.
So I struggle and challenge myself instead of like
Right.
asking them to just
To change or modify their behavior. You're here, you accept the challenge.
yeah.
Right. Okay. That was very interesting to me as well. So, is there any other aspect of this issue, moral development and how being in the U.S. has affected your sense of moral codes? Is there anything that I could have asked that I didn't ask that is important for you to share as well?
I don't know, I just feel like the only thing I change a little bit in terms of attitudes toward things. Like as I told you, I used to judge a lot and I used to think I'm right, so everyone needs to be like me.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe this is really right, so if you don't do it, you're wrong. And
Right.
yeah, now I'm like different. It doesn't mean like I change as I'm doing the same thing you're doing, but I'm just like respecting who you are and what you believe in, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Because if you accept me and you respect me, I have to do the same thing, and none of us is wrong.
Right.
So.
So it seems to me, HAFSA, and we're going to conclude with this, is that you have a fairly compartmentalized view of the different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't blend together for you.
They
You
don't.
keep them pretty separate.
Yeah.
And you're competent in each one. And you
Mhm.
recognize what each one is about, but you don't merge them. So,
Mhm.
for example, the issue of the roles of women in the two cultures is quite different. So, when you return, do you think you would at some point say, I wonder about this practice here, this limitation on women, or this different role that women have here? Do you think it would rub off on your thinking about your home culture, is what I'm asking? Because you're a woman, and of course that's essential to who you are and your identity.
I used to wonder this before coming
Yeah.
here, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because as I told you, Morocco is a multi-pot country. Like we have a lot of people. You don't have to come to the United States to realize this.
Mhm.
So I used to question this even before I come here. But coming here, maybe I will go back home and act in more than just like questioning, because I live it and experience it. And there's so many things like I'm always like questioning. It has nothing to do with religion. It's just like the system itself and the society. Or the,
So if you went back home and you had a certain questioning attitude about the role and place of women in Moroccan society, which of course is evolving, is changing,
yeah, it
but
is.
that's not in contradiction with the religion that is practiced there.
No, it's not. Like, yeah, it's not.
Mhm. Okay, well I want to thank you so much, HAFSA, for sharing your time and your thoughts and your experiences with us today.
If you have any other questions, I'm willing to answer.
Thanks.